Kingston, and the Red Sox begin a 3-game series at Toronto tomorrow night. The A's are at the Astros. Oakland's last 3 in a row. They're still closely today. Scott Casper, 2-1.65 ERA, going up against 0-3 Brett Overholt, so Oakland a half game back of Texas. In the National League, day baseball in Pittsburgh and a sweep for the Reds. They down the Pirates 2-1. Ryan Ludwig, the 2-run double in the 6th. Mets over the Cardinals 4-1. The Eagles now 10. St. Louis 11. pitcher. John Farrell, the manager's report is sponsored by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. Connell said, here's Dave O'Brien. John, thank you very much. Yankees and Red Sox to wrap up the series. John, all sorts of controversy last night, and this had nothing to do necessarily with replay. This had all to do with the pine tar on the neck of Michael Pineda. Tell me when you first spotted it and when you first made the decision, I'm going to go out there and ask the umpire to take a look.
You know, Dave, it was after the second out in that second inning. After the out was recorded, he was walking back up the mound, and you could see a shininess, a discoloration to the right side of his neck. And during that time, or shortly after that, we had a number of guys that saw, through the many camera angles in the ballpark, that there was a substance on the neck. And in the at-bat with Grady, because it was so blatant, it really gave me no choice but to go out and have him checked. If I don't check in that instance, he's probably going to come in and remove it, because everybody in the ballpark that was watching the telecast knew that it had been seen, detected, and word was spreading very quickly. So I just felt like it needed to be said, given the two starts ago in New York where it was on his pitching hand. And, unfortunately, this is one of the things inside the game that it was just above and beyond the normal acceptance.
That seems to be the prevailing thought. It was so in the face, it was so obvious and so blatant, and in his case, so foolish that you couldn't ignore it. It was beyond being able to ignore, right?
Well, that was kind of the determining factor, because so many people saw it, and you could see it from the dugouts. It just felt like this is something that had to be brought to the attention of the umpires. And Jerry Davis, asked me a couple of times, "Do you want me to go check him?" And I said, "Yeah," because you can see it all over his neck.
Have you, in the past, you don't have to mention who it is, but seen pitchers have pine tar on their body, and maybe it's not that blatant, but you thought, I might say something in this situation?
I've not been involved in a situation where a player's been checked before. You see some mannerisms on the field sometimes of pitchers, where they might grab a certain area, or whether it's a hat, whether it's a pant leg, wherever it might be, and maybe it draws a little bit of attention to it, but nothing like this where it was so visible, because for one, pine tar is so dark and it was so different from his skin. That's where it became very readily apparent, and even in the video from the previous start in New York, the amount that is used, kind of jumps out at you a little bit.
It certainly did. Major League Baseball even warned him after that last one. Just a question for you. You didn't go after him, didn't go out and ask the umpire to go question him the first time. You did it this time. What was the determining factor for you?
Well, in New York, by the time I was made aware of it, it was after the fourth inning. He came out for the fifth inning for his warm-ups, and it was not on his right palm. So at that point, you're kind of chasing a ghost. And you know what? There's, I think, an etiquette within the game that you better be sure if you're going to send an umpire out there. And last night, it was very evident and obvious that the substance was there.
Were you thinking at the end of the night, 10 games, 20 games, 30 games, 8 games, whatever? Did you have a figure in mind? Because today it came down, he was suspended for 10.
Sometimes precedent is already set. There's been recent suspensions because of a substance on a glove, and that's been at 8 games. I think the prevailing thought, just by reading some accounts or different opinions around the game, it was going to be somewhere in the 8 to 10 range at a minimum. That's what's come down. I think that was an event inside of last night. But to me, the real story was John Lackey. As well as he pitched, as consistent as he was with pinpoint location, 76% strikes on the night on a let's face it, in conditions that weren't conducive to pitching. He did one heck of a job at a time where we needed it the most, not only for the bottom line win, but to give the bullpen a full day down of just some rest needed.
And John talked about that after the game. He said it was very much in his thoughts before the game, in his bullpen, and in the game to take the load off the bullpen last night.
Dave, you've been around this game for quite a while, and there's always this sense of a starting pitcher knowing what's transpired over the previous 3 or 4 games, and when they need to go deep, somehow they find a way to carry the burden, log some innings, give a guy or two down there in the bullpen a day off when they need it most, and that was the case last night.
Magnificent performance. And, sometimes the clutch performances don't always happen in the World Series or in the postseason. They can happen in April, too.
Well, there might be some that think that last night was the best game John Lackey's pitched in a Red Sox uniform, and it'd be hard to argue that when you consider 8 innings of 1-run baseball with no walks and 11 strikeouts. It was a commanding performance. As I said, the timing of it was spot on for where we were with the rest of the pitching staff.
And on the topic of timing, you get Shane Victorino back. Is he in your lineup tonight?
He is right field hitting in the number 2 spot. That puts Pedroia in the leadoff spot, which, talking with Petey yesterday, just looking at Shane's return to us, which will, one, have an impact on our team defensively and the energy in which he brings. But Petey was fine with hitting the leadoff spot, and that's been a spot in that top of the order that we're a little bit of a revolving door. Petey's been in there a few games, and hopefully we begin to get a little bit more continuity, not just in terms of outfield defense, but in the lineup as we go forward here.
John, thanks, and let's hope for no controversy and a quick game, and then off to Toronto tonight.
We're looking forward to it. Felix goes out and throws like he did last time out. He'll put in a good performance here tonight for us.
Thanks, John. Good luck.
Appreciate it, Dave.
Our question with the manager was brought to you by your Boston area Mercedes-Benz dealer, the Mercedes-Benz CLA, now available with 4MATIC all-wheel drive. Visit MBUSA.com to schedule a test drive today.